uh, there's no mistakes, right? I clicked live, but it's going to take a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Guy, I talked to somebody else that. I mean, every time I see you, I've talked to other people that have worked with you, and then I know there had to be another three or four or five, but I ran into a lady. How did this go? Anyway, she just wrote you a message, and yeah, I was just really because I get a lot of messages. I'm sure you get a lot more than I do, but it's just like she was so appreciative of you responded to her and gave her some advice. It had to do with her kid. But I'm like, wow, that's a small world. you know, I just keep running into people that you've helped. Yeah. So yeah, 24 people in the house. Yeah, it is a powerhouse Saturday, isn't it? That's what my friend just said. But wow, I don't know. Talking to you is always so different, and it seems like I always get information right before I'm going to talk to you. And I'm thinking, why am I seeing this? Oh, because you're going to be talking to Mary in a couple of days. Um, but yeah, I love catching up. I love going to your page and just checking stuff out, see what you're doing. Um, but I don't know how it's been for you, but people have been talking about since really July through up till 2 or 3 weeks ago, just blistering. People are just getting absolutely cleaned out, relationships ending, all kinds of stuff being restarted or reset. I mean, it's just been wild. But in the last uh, couple of days, I got a huge injection of this kid's frequency, the young people's frequency, right? Like we've had more people come on, they talk about their kids. I found two or three more Ascension families. I'm going to have to get them in touch with you, like Elsa's family. Uh, yeah, just some amazing stories. We're going to do some follow ups on, and I'm going to get these people in touch with you because of what you've done with the kids. So yesterday, I see a video of Kyrie Irving.
Mm.
He's the NBA basketball player that wouldn't get the vaccination. The story's gone on. He's being absolutely held as a societal scapegoat in this institution, yeah, of the NBA. And I had never really seen him speak on matters. I put it on my page, and the first 8 minutes, this 31-year-old who's obviously a multi millionaire doesn't need to do this stuff. Uh, he talks about what you think is going on out there really isn't. He talks about downloads. He talked about that morning. He got a download from his elders. He didn't really want to be doing this, but he's been told he has to. He was talking
Mm.
starseeds. He was talking
Mm.
like we do.
Mm.
31 years old, and and then on top of that, the way everything happens, the show before this one, because I was really amazed because he was speaking for his generation. He was delivering a message from his guides to the generation, which is stop distracting yourself. We're the ones that got to help the older people now. They've started, but it was amazing. And then today, in the middle show, I was talking to Kristen Vambeset from Norway, who's very lit and very galactic, and I've known her since she came out 2 or 3 years ago, and she got a visit just in the last few days. Now she's had a lot of episodes,
Yeah.
and she gets a visit from what she calls a very small ET. Comes in and starts talking to her, and says, "You got to help the kids now, and they're gonna come to you, and they're gonna communicate with you, and they're going to need for you to intervene with their parents." And it was this whole thing, right? It was very fascinating. So that must mean there's, I don't know, what I got from it. I don't know if you're still there. But what I got from it was the kids are coming online now. I think Mary's frozen. Yeah, she's frozen. It's probably the energy. She was running late. She had some car trouble. So Let's see what happens here. I think I'll unplug her and see if she can plug back in. Or it's been weird. Some of the subtle, what would you call it, censorship and suppression that's been happening. Very subtly, that stuff doesn't typically bother me. I don't give it any energy. There she is. She's back. You're right. It's probably your connection. But I won't go back into everything. They heard everything. A lot of them heard it on the previous show. But I'm just, part of Kristen's download was that between the 11th and the 22nd, these kids in 2 waves are lighting up the New Earth grid. So I know you and I have talked about it because that's one of the things that you're really into. But I don't know. After all this stuff that we went through these last few months, feels like we're on the other side of something. Feels like the feminine voice is really stepping up to be heard. And then now the kids. So I'm really excited and enthusiastic about what's going on. And whatever you know about it, we would love to hear.
Well, you're on the ball, absolutely, Todd. And this is what's been so exciting, is that I'm getting more educators getting in touch from all across, not just here in Australia, but in the US, UK, knowing and seeing these kids. And one of them was telling me that one of the children was actually translating symbols for her, that she was seeing, and actually able to interpret what they were. This is what I mean about the advance of these children. And I have mentioned in my recent presentation that I did, and it's about a young lady called Lee Capitelli, who calls herself a homo novus. And I haven't mentioned this very much before, but they have come in to assist the kids. They are there as extra support. Their abilities are, I think Lee mentioned about 19 different intuitive abilities in how they can translate reality, how they understand reality. And it's an incredible list of things that they are able to do. And they've come in to support the Homo noeticus, which is the new generations of kids. And I asked Lee, did she know how many of her kind had come in? She says, I've got no idea, but they'll be across the planet, and they've come in. So we've got, when people say to me, what are the ETs and Star Family doing to help us? And saying, why don't they just land? And, the usual thing. What I say is they are helping us, but they're incarnating in human form to do it, because that's the most effective way, because we're still in a place on this planet where there are so many that would struggle with intelligences in their true form. So the only way to do that is to come in human form. But many of them will say, this isn't home. I don't want to be here. I don't like it here. This isn't okay for me. It's hard to be here. And I'm hearing that so many times from so many people that are not in, what's happening. They know what's happening. They know they're here with something to do, but they struggle with being human.
Yeah.
And so, that other end of the spectrum is, what on earth, how am I going to handle being here when everything is so different to how they remember being in another form on another planet? And I was talking to this 9-year-old who was explaining she's a hybrid, and she said she comes from a water planet and she's part water being, part human, and is very aware that her water being side has abilities. And she mentioned these abilities as in terms of just music, and saying that when she hears music, it can be very difficult for her because she's going on the frequency of the music to the person who's created it and what's actually going on with the person that's created the music. So she's picking up this whole package of information. And she said some music she just can't hear. She can't deal with it.
I know people like that, and they're very ET. Now, how old is this lady that's the Homeo Nova? What did you say?
Oh, the Homo Novus.
Homo novus.
Yeah, she's in her middle to late 20s now.
Okay.
She's written a book on her past lives, and she's written another one, Interview with an Alien. What she is an artist. And a lot of the new book, I haven't finished reviewing it yet. The images, pictures of these beings are so detailed and so concise. And not only that, she has the understanding of their personalities and her real connection with them. So it isn't just I'm seeing this being.
Right.
I'm actually having interactions with them. I know what they're like. I know what their psyche is about. So there's, this real connection to, and I mean, some of the images are absolutely stunning. And I met Lee when she was 19. Her mother's a scientist, and her mother wrote to me saying, my daughter's talking about having ET contact. She's always mentioned the different beings. And although I'm a scientist, I can't dismiss the fact that this is very real to her. What do you make of it, Mary? Is what she wrote to me. And I said, well, everything suggests that this is a real thing, actually. And I ended up interviewing her when she was 19, and she told me about her other lives on different planets. She spoke about being in Atlantis and programming her crystal skull, and explained that she was a researcher in Atlantis, and she would download information into the skull. She described in detail what happened when this wave came and Atlantis went down. She explained it in detail about what happened to the bird as this happened. And I will say this, I'm very reluctant on one level, but she said, Mary, you were there and you had your own crystal skull and you were a researcher as well. And I have never told people my experiences with crystal skulls, but that's maybe I'll see.
Really?
But yes, I've not told you about what happened when a lady brought a crystal skull to me, did I? I don't think I've mentioned
No.
it.
No,
Well,
you usually talk about other people, but last time you were talking about, you were opening up more about your own stuff, which is very cool. Whatever you want to do.
well, there's two parts to that. I connected to that because I had a lady bring me a crystal skull that she was told when she was coming back to Australia with this crystal skull. She was actually told to bring it to Mary Rodwell, and she didn't know me. She didn't know who Mary Rodwell was. Hadn't got a clue. Rang me up when she got to Western Australia and said, "Oh, you're actually a real person then. I've been told to bring the skull to you." And I was, right, okay, bring it along, bring it along. And she brought it with a friend, and she put it on the table in front of me, and she started asking questions, and I'm getting direct information from the skull. It's just giving me the answers, just like this, just like we're talking now. So the question would come up, I would get the answer, and I would tell it to her. She did this for about nearly an hour, said, "You've answered all my questions. Thank you very much," picked up the skull, and off she went.
What?
And I thought, what just happened? What just happened there? And so when Lee told me that I had my own crystal skull, and that I obviously did the same thing as a researcher, downloading it into the skull, I realized that that's just something I brought through. And I've met, or should I say, I've been introduced to a number of ancient skulls, and I don't even have to touch them.
Wow.
I just need to be near them, and the information just comes in.
Wow.
It's obviously a frequency thing. But Lee was the first one that said you were in Atlantis, Mary, and you had your own crystal skull. So that's the tie-in. But what was interesting with her mother, and I'm sure her mum now, I've mentioned it before, her mother said that there was, I think it's the Izoni tribe that Lee mentioned. And she mentioned about the Izoni tribe, saying that her mother was there at the same time, and her mother looked after her children because she died. And the mother, she drew a picture of her children. And the mother said to me, I get emotional every time I see these children, but I can't relate to what Leah said. I don't have, other than feeling emotional when I see these children. And we did a regression where she went back to that time. The mother was really emotional because she was seeing these children in the regression. And she started to say, they're speaking to me, but I don't understand the language. Lee was sitting there listening to this, and she stopped me for a minute and said, can I say something? So Lee started speaking in Izoni, and a mother, the scientist, started answering her in Izoni, in the language.
Holy
Hypnosis.
hypnosis. Holy, wow. But see, like these things are happening so quickly and so with so much more frequency. Like going back to Kristen, she was saying that these young people are coming to her now as a practitioner. Like she just had met with a 24-year-old. And I said, well, what's that like, you know? Because, I mean, this is really new for us. You work with all ages. You've been doing this so long. But the demographics, yeah, they're coming, I guess. Well, what she was saying was, because I said to her, well, what was that like? She said, well, she just woke up like a year ago. And she's a starseed and she knows it. And
Yeah.
and the whole thing was, oh my God, I forgot the best part. So the little ET comes in and tells her, this is what you're going to do. Then a incarnated 3-year-old boy comes to her in spirit and tells her that she's going to be working with kids. More of that. And you'll know in a couple of days. I think she gets on a train and like a subway. There's a kid sleeping. He's talking to her. And eventually what ends up happening, because she was still kind of confused, this 24-year-old girl walks in. And the kid, that one of these kids that had come seen her, told her, this is the first one. Right? So, and then that whole thing with the 11th to the 22nd. And then like hearing these stories, of course, that you've been bringing up front. And then for some reason in the last month, there's been at least 4 people come on here talk about their kids. Yolanda Marie from Florida has an 18-year-old and a 12-year-old. She's about as lit as any of them out there. I mean, she's just, okay. And I said, well, what's that like? She goes, well, they see it too. They see the orbs. One of them sees the elementals all the time, even when she doesn't see them. I mean, and you know about Elsa's family. I mean, and there was a couple of 2, 3 other ones that I talked to. And yeah, they're coming online. No doubt.
Yeah. And you're quite right. There's something very big and that has shifted.
Right.
Really in the last month or so, particularly. And I was sort of having a quick chat and I said, so it's like, be prepared, and it's big. It's big, be prepared. It's going to be bigger than you think. Yeah.
When were you getting this?
Very recently.
Okay.
And reason for that, I think, is also because, you know, I've got a contact in the US who was told about the arcs.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I also connected with her and a remote viewer who also, they're in a group, these remote viewers. Tony Rodriguez is also one of them.
Right.
And they've been to the Bermuda Arc, where they've been inside, and they've seen the what he thinks are the pilots that are being grown to pilot the craft when it comes out the water. And it makes itself known, but they're also seeing these giants in stasis.
Yeah.
As well, and they've gone to the one in Romania, where there's another arc, and there's another big giant, a giant there. That's and what the feeling is when I talked to Tony when he was talking about remote viewing both along with his group and this lady Beth who was shown the these seeds, these that are going to help humanity, for example, as all part of this, that he said that he believes that everything will happen really with in less than a year, 6 months to a year maximum, but in less than a year. He says these beings will be grown. The ones that are piloting the craft are being grown now. And he said they will be in full form, he believes, well under a year. So we're looking at certainly something less than a year, maybe even less than 6 months, because he told me that about 2 months ago.
There's Beth, the remote viewer you're talking about.
Yeah, that's
Beth North.
one. Well,
Yeah, and one of my friends asked, which because you're what you were talking about with the crystal skulls. I don't know if you know the whole thing that happened at Soulogy Fest. It was quite an experience. I'm not going to go into it all, but there was major work being done on that mountain, Mulberry Mountain.
yeah.
Everyone that was going there, I'm telling you, to the last person had problems getting there. There were all these things that came up. I didn't even get to attend. I ended up getting freakishly picked up and extradited to Houston, Texas for a 6-year-old complaint that was a non-arrest warrant. And every cop that was involved in it was telling me, we don't understand this. Why would they send you there for a misdemeanor of a complaint that was a non-arrest warrant? It's just somebody had filed a complaint, right? It was a family-related thing. So, but what ended up happening was myself and many other people, now this was end of August, it was in that period of end of August and kind of 1st of September where we had this huge, and everyone that I've talked to that's come on the show, without me soliciting, has talked about this time period. Like we got shot out of a cannon. But at that time, I had a whole thing with it, and I guess had, I had a broke bread with all the mountain energy, particularly the dormant energy that had been suppressed, and that was represented by these two primordial, powerful, scary beings that had all this code that had been suppressed. It was Atlantean related. It was hidden. There was just all kinds of stuff. There was many things I could tell you about. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because of what you just said about 6 months to a year. What we just went through that feels like we got on the other side. Everybody got their clock clean. What I understood, or what some of us understood, was that many people had come from other mountain ranges. We'd gone to this mountain. We'd pulled up code that hadn't been up for, because like these primordials were angry. They were angry. They weren't angry at me. They were just pissed because they'd been put down for so long. They were ready to go to work. So all of this wild stuff happened. Evidently, we extracted some massive code, and then many people went to different mountain ranges and dropped it off. And all this kind of came to pass and came to understanding as we exchanged our stories just in our normal interaction. So I just bring this up because I just want to feel into that. I think we're on the other side here. It really feels that way. And with these kids, to me, it's like the final sign. I don't know. But thank you for letting me explain all that. And anything you can add to that. I know we can't tell the fortune or the future perfectly, but it sure feels like, and you would know better than anyone because you've been doing this for so long.
Well, what we're wondering about is the avatars, these giant avatars. What's happening to their consciousness if they've been in stasis for several thousand years or whatever. And I've only just recently talked to someone who believes that they are someone, that they've got these avatars waiting for them, these biological forms in stasis waiting for them, but they're in a human form at the moment. But
Wow.
They are waiting to reconnect to their avatar.
Now that's deep, right? I mean, that's deep. So they're in human form, knowing that they have an avatar body waiting for them.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, that's another thing, like even having an incarnated person come to you and speak to you telepathically, like my friend. That happened to me when I first woke up with my second wife before she died. I thought that was a major anomaly. I didn't know as much then, but I don't hear a lot of that stuff. But there's a lot of stuff like that coming around. Like the last 2 days, I've had a lot of, uh, like flashes and impressions that I came up from inner Earth, and I'm bringing code from inner Earth, and feels very much like a multiple body experience, kind of like what this person's telling you. Wow.
Well, I was interested that if you've got these um, these bodies in stasis, these giants in stasis that they reckon are going to be reactivated, where was the consciousness of that? Because obviously they wouldn't want to be out of commission for 2 or 3 or 10,000 years or however long it is. And now I've got the next piece of it is that some of them are in human form, know that they've got those avatar bodies waiting for them, but there's obviously a time where then they're going to reconnect. And it's not so different in a way from when the 8-year old was telling me that he was a mantis, and that sometimes when he goes on board, he goes into, evaporates.
Every time we start talking about certain things, it gets all frozen. Wow. So to think that some of us are walking around consciously and even really unconsciously, you know, in form, like I'm in this form, but there's other, yeah, she'll come back. She'll come back. Here, let me just clear her out so she can know. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, these impressions I've had these last couple of days, which have been like slowly coming in, they don't just involve this. I don't know how to explain it, but I don't want to say that this consciousness, but it feels like a multiple body, very earthy thing, and they all seem to be running at the same time, which is really weird. Here she is. She's back. Everybody's on pins and needles. Yes, so that piece,
Okay.
that's fascinating. So where did the consciousness go? The consciousness went, they put that body in stasis and they went into a human form.
Yeah, and this is no different to when the child of 8 told me that when he goes on the craft, sometimes he evaporates into a mantis form. So it's showing that we can move our consciousness into another container,
Yeah,
biological container. And there was another lady telling me that she was on board in a Zeta body as a scientist. And I said to her, so how do you get back to your human body? She sort of said it's sort of waiting for me, sort of over there. And I said, so how do you get back then? And she described a ball of light, her consciousness, moving from the Zeta body back into her human form and reanimating it. So in a way, it's just describing the properties of the soul and how consciousness can be transferred.
yeah,
And I mean, it's not such a big concept when we're hearing that that may very well be explored or being explored by deep, some of these deep projects and what have you, where we're hearing about this kind of thing. And there are whistleblowers saying that they can do this, and they can do this with clones and whatever as well. There's, this is what they're saying, that they're creating clones and they can move the consciousness of someone into the clones. So, you know, it does rather sound as though some of our military are already understanding this is possible.
wow. Big, this is a big package here to unpack. But yeah, because I just think about, I look at it like, okay, so we got all these new toys and technology here. I'm speaking like in regard to like all, let's say all star family. And I guess it's like, Atlantis, we had the technology, but we lost the spirituality, or however you want to put it. And it feels like that now. I know a lot of people energetically have said we've done it energetically. Now we just got to play out. But this type of information makes it much more. I hate to use the word complicated, but it does bring a lot more into the field. And I'm wondering now, because a lot of times I've thought to myself, I wonder if they just wipe our damn memory every day, every morning or every night, and so okay, just talking to Judith earlier today, she made a couple of comments like for you and hers, like just natural, right? And we're going, wait a minute. One of the comments she made was she was just talking about as a sidebar note how the Venusians have been so influential on the earth over the years. Their specialty of obviously is love, right? And then she says, and a lot of them are walking right next to you. They look just like us. And I'm thinking, well, do they know they're Venusian? Like so. And then the next thing would be like, what happens when, like, I know I wake up in the morning. Sometimes I'm absolutely just gone, just totally worn out, and I know I've been busy. And sometimes I have flashes, but I wonder if that's what's happening when we go to sleep at night. I wonder, do we like, where does the consciousness start and the soul? You know what I mean? Like, how does that work? It's fascinating what we're coming into.
I think what I'm finding is many of those, there are dreams and there are dreams, and there are dreams that are in fact not dreams. That people say to me, I've dreamt I was on a spacecraft and I was doing various jobs or whatever, and it felt very real. And I said, how long ago did you have that dream? They may say 10 years ago. And I said, well, it's not a dream. If you're still remembering something from that length of time, then you can be pretty certain it's certainly not a dream, because most dreams disappear within minutes, seconds even,
Right.
of you waking up. The ones that, and I remember, and I think I've been in the dream, so I dream a lot. And one of the dreams was significant for me because I remember being in the dream, dreaming about a dream, and I was analyzing the dream in the dream. So it was like, it was triple layered. I was in the dream, realizing I was analyzing my dream in the dream, and literally analyzing it, and then
Right.
waking up and thinking, I wasn't even consciously awake. So I suspect that what we're doing is that we are, and I know there are those that visit different timelines.
Right.
There's one lady that spoke about that to me. She goes to different timelines and moves through timelines, and she sees things in real time. So this is another part of it as well. This is what our consciousness can do, because time is linear.
Right.
And there is no limit to what the consciousness can explore as it chooses. But many have tasks with their star family. They will say that when I'm on the craft, I'm either flying the craft or I'm doing a task with them on some planet or whatever. And then they'll be consciously aware of it. Some are not consciously aware of it, but wake up exhausted like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and wonder what on earth you've been doing. But what I was shown was that we are often visiting other timelines,
Yeah.
other parallel universes, other dimensions, and we can do that once we are out of body, because there is no limit then to what we are experiencing. Then we come back to Earth, and I know I wake up and think, oh, I'm back here again.
Well, that's what was fascinating talking to Kristen, because I know her story, and those that have watched the shows with her over the years know her story. So she basically looks at it this way. Once she got it straight in her head, oh, I'm going to be helping these children, and she reflected on how that would have worked for her, because like many of us, she ended up going into being labeled, being given pharmaceuticals, and in the program, and then she finally breaks out. But like that, and I thought about that. I thought, wow, because what I'm hearing and seeing is the same. Like listening to Kyrie Irving, 31 years old, we could go back 5 years, take the audio tape of that, and it would have. It's what we're talking about. It's how we're referring to everything. But like now, you've got these same types of individuals that in linear years or Earth years, they're going to be 40, 50, 60, whatever, that are going to go and help little young versions of themselves. So that's mind-blowing to me, because how many people are getting that intel to go do that? and how many people are they going to affect? Because she was told by this little ET that even came in on the show and talked to us and actually sent me a note after the show. But he told her that they tried to reach her a year and a half ago with this, and she didn't connect to it. And he said, the reason I'm here and the reason I'm not going anywhere is because we can't wait any longer. It's time to go to work. And so you can't have any doubts. You can't have any, you found enough power. Let's get to work. It sounded imminent, not doomsday imminent, but like we got to do this now. And then her intel of seeing 2 waves of kids lighting up the grid right after this big thing, that to me, that feels pretty solid. I'm sorry, go ahead. There was a lag.
No, what I was going to say was, a lot of the teachers are wanting to know their best way of helping, because each child has got different skills, different awareness, has either been, if you like, programmed out of certain parts of their awareness or whatever. They're seen as neurodivergent,
Right.
and therefore a problem. So what I'm saying is that a lot of the older star seeds have come in various roles to help.
It's a signal. They're loving us today. They're just killing us. It's all right. It's all right. Let me try. Let's see. We're 36 minutes into it. They've knocked us off 4 times already. She'll be right back, I'm sure. So this ties into what Kristen Vambisett was talking about today, even what she's talking about right now as she got cut off, which was the specifics of how to work with these children. Yeah, I'm going to tell her this now. Here she is.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, we're good. And
Ben.
yeah, and I was just what you were getting into is what was the biggest message, because he came in, the ET came. I said, can you do this? She goes, I don't know. Let me see. And so I asked a couple of questions. I said, what can we do? Like, what can the rest of us do? The ones that don't have the specialties like you do and Kristen and such. And he said, every day you touch children. Every day you're coming into contact with them or through their parents or whatever, is to give them the message that they're normal. Because what you were just getting into, and please finish, these kids have been targeted, I guess you could say. They said that what he said was it's my own words. The worst thing we could do is put them on a pedestal. Yeah. The best thing we can do is let them know that they're normal, right? And you were just getting into that, like how do we get to these children?
Well, one of the most important things is in almost every sphere of the child's life, from the parent to the grandparents to the teachers to even the medical profession. There are many star seeds in all of those, many star seeds that have come in with their awareness. Some of them have wanted to expand on that so that when they're working with these children, whether they're the midwife, and I've known midwives mention that they've been there to bring these star children in with the right energy. They know about that. Wow. Nurses that go around on the choir doing healing. You've got educators that have been through the program, seeing what's wrong and intuiting what they need to do to support the kids. And what is interesting is, because they've expanded their awareness, they can tune into the child and see where the child is in terms of what they need from a multidimensional perspective. They'll see the sensitivities that child has and know how to help them. One teacher said to me to ground them and to help them understand what it's like to be human, because they need to understand, because some of them, it's their first incarnation. Mm-hmm. Being human is really, really challenging and aggressive. and very that some of them are not used to this heavy container we call our body, for example, and they struggle with that. So they may not find that certain sports are good for them. I met one lady who has a genetic disorder that makes her super subtle, which is wondering whether it's genetically part of her role on this planet, but saying that that a lot of them have got different genetic markers that give them certain sensitivities that an intuitive teacher or a counselor or a psychologist who's intuitive, who's a starseed, can identify, and then, okay, now I know, what do I need to do here? So this is about an education that's going to have to come from here,
Right.
not from what a curriculum is. It's
Right.
about helping them to be human, understanding what it's like to be human, how to guide them through all the challenges most of us have gone through, but remembering that they're super sensitive. So that there are things like this 8-year-old explaining about music,
Right.
understanding music from a very, from a frequency, from a level of frequency and information that most of us will say, oh, that's very beautiful music, it relaxes me or whatever.
Right.
But they will know what's behind all of that and
That's
what it's doing.
That's powerful. They just won't let her stay on with us. That's really powerful. Yeah, it's crazy too how we're talking about the same thing, or it's almost like a continuation of the previous two shows today, which is crazy. But we all know crazy is normal now. She's going to ring right now. Ring, ring, ring. Hey, 40 minutes is, we're happy to have that with, there she is. We'll try one more time. Let's see. They just don't want her to talk today. That's all. They just don't want her to talk. Well, that, and I got that when I was talking to Kristen today. I realized, I just had an epiphany. I thought, we're not going to reconstruct the education system.
Yeah.
This is going to be like homeschool, like, because one of these children that came to her, and remember, the child is alive.
Mm.
So, and she's trying to figure out what I do with this. Well, he gives her this specific information, says to her, I'm 3 years old. I can't verbalize yet. Every night, I know I'm a starseed. Every night when I go to bed, I go do my work. I think he would go to his planet, and and he had details. And every night when he comes back into his body, it's too much for his human. And to your point, he's already uncomfortable, so he's coming back into this heavy corpse, compared to his light body, and he starts screaming. So the parents are freaking out and trying to figure out what's wrong with him, and he just wants her to tell the parents that he's okay and here's what's going on, and he's going to work it out. Isn't that crazy? She froze again. Well, that's all right. Oh, she's back. Are you back? It's just her signal. Well, we don't know what it is. But if we all just take a moment to stabilize the signal, maybe we can help it. We can do anything. Well, Mary. All right. Well, we're 44 minutes into it, so, we got to have a little talk with her. We'll get her back on. We'll talk to her and get her back on in time. She's such a cool lady, isn't she? Well, I think we're done for the day. Got some other work to do. Let's see, we'll try one more time. See if she comes back in one more time. All right. They are talking to what is being happening. Yeah. Okay, here we go one more time. We actually got a 191.
There we are.
Yeah, we can try it. We can try it. Let's try it again. We don't want to keep you going back and forth like a yo-yo, but yeah. What else you got? Whatever you want to talk about.
Well, the one other thing I did want to say, and telepathy is very common with many of these star seeds, so a lot of them are not talking early
Right.
because they expect you to tune into them. So if your child takes a while to vocalize, and some are 4 or 5 before they start talking, it's because they're expecting you to be able to actually pick up their thoughts, because they're they're picking up yours. I remember a young starseed telling me that he had an argument with his sister once because they always were telepathic with one another, and his sister said, "Stop being lazy and start talking," because she'd got fed up with all the telepathic stuff. So
high class problems.
the other thing was, I asked this lady why she had difficulty looking into people's eyes, because you'll notice that sometimes they don't want to look at you, and the reason is they're picking up so much information from you when they look into your eyes that it becomes disabling.
Right.
So they're very careful. And what my point is, that this is what these teachers need to understand. We're not
She's hot. She's hot. So she's saying basically that the information is going to be coming in for these teachers, for these children, to that they'll understand that these are new modalities or new techniques or new humans, new types of humans that we've that are here. Well, 201 people in the house. It's been awesome. Love you, Mary Rodwell. If you see this, we love you. Thank you for everything that you do, and we'll catch you next time. I'm blaming Mulberry Mountain interference. When are you going to understand that Mulberry Mountain is a powerful manifestation energy? All right. Peace out, everybody. Bye-bye.